want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. In case you don't know, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we would be the Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
I had to put down my pen, man.
Better got to put it down. It's that clicking noise. You're driving me crazy with the clicking.
Man, I'm special, man. I'm touched, man. Sometimes I need, I got my own oddities and all that kind of stuff, man. Sometimes I'm whatever you call it, where you gotta, where you gotta like fiddle with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I think best. And somebody gave me a blue egg, but I just can't bring myself
squeeze
to
the
use
egg, man.
man. It just but I don't feel right, man. Something about that just makes me feel creepy, man. But it is what it is, man. Hey, we had a great conversation yesterday, and
yes,
we're looking to have a great conversation tonight. For any of y'all that don't know, we air here locally in the Denver area, 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City, KLDC, and we record our hour-long radio shows on Mondays, and then we edit them together. Super producer Nikki Nicole, who just shared this stream, she puts them together, chops them up, and we broadcast Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. and then Wednesdays at 6 p.m. And then we come back for all you special kids in the back of the room that don't want to listen to an hour conversation. We come back, and on Tuesdays, like we've been doing now for copious amounts of years, we do a little 30-minute conversation, and we basically do the same topic. So, but this conversation yesterday, man, it was pretty cool, man. We got into it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. We had Kara Donahue from In the Loop Singles. If you are single and you want to get out there and meet people organically, like in person, like get offline, because y'all know how I feel about dating online. Like, yeah, okay, you can meet people, but get offline as fast as you can and go meet them in person, because that's just, I hate it. I'm just saying. But anyway, she has this service so that they put on 30 events a month in 4 different cities: Seattle, Dallas, Denver, and Nashville. Oh no, Austin, not Dallas.
Yeah.
But so if you're like, well, I don't know what to do, I don't know how to go out and meet people, I'm in my 30s, 40s, 50s, I don't have, a crew of people anymore, so I'm not even sure how to get out and meet people. This is how you get out and meet people, and you get out to do fun events. And it's not like the weird dating thing where you're speed dating, stuff like that, although they sometimes do speed dating events. But it's really about just going out and meeting people organically and doing fun things. And that's what she does. That's what she provides.
Yeah. So JBK is a hater. He vehemently hates the online thing. I've had some success using that that being one of my routes. And so but at the same time, I definitely have my opinions, and it ain't for the weak. I mean, you gotta be ready with that. There's levels to that thing, man. So anyhow, we had Kara on it. So she, and we may get her to jump on here today. She had a meeting that spilled over a little bit. So we may get her to jump on a little bit and rehash some of the stuff that we talked about yesterday. But she gets a front row seat at watching single people do single people stuff. All of the events that her and her staffs put on, inside joke, if you listen to the other one.
The staff.
Her and her staff put on these events where single people just get together and do stuff. It ain't really about hooking up so much. It ain't like hookup kind of deal. It's just get out doing fun stuff. And some of it is traveling, like internationally and all that kind of stuff. So she gets a front row seat to see kind of the interactions of people. And one of the things that she's really passionate about is the whole notion of staying in your lane. As a single person trying to meet somebody else that's single, staying in your lane. And so that, we decided, man, we're gonna chop that up a little bit here tonight.
Yeah, because staying in your lane really is about knowing your sexual marketplace value, having a little personal responsibility, know thyself kind of deal, and finding somebody who's within your lane that matches you in so many different ways, whether it's religious, whether it's socioeconomic, whether it's financial, whether it's just having similar desires for the future in a relationship. Like, Do you want to travel? Are you a homebody? Are you ambitious and want to make a ton of money? And one of the things that's interesting though, and we did bring it up, is that nowadays, especially because of online dating, one of the reasons I kind of dislike it is that it gives people kind of an over exaggerated opinion of what they can get. And a lot of times nowadays, a lot of folks will go, well, I may be overweight, but they should just love me the way I am. So I want that fit 6 foot tall guy, or that fit fitness model, even though I'm 300 pounds and barely leave the house. That's not your lane. And I know it's can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, but you may find the best match in somebody who you may initially not even think that would be a good match for you, but it comes down to how you connect, how your energy flows, how compatible you are. I mean, communication is 90% of relationships. And if you meet somebody that you have a good communication with, that gets your jokes, that understands you, that you can kind of flow with and communicate with, might be somebody you want to maybe explore dating with, but that's usually not somebody you're going to find online. Now, you might meet somebody online, but all I'm saying is if you're meeting people online, if you're too busy to get out in the world, meet them online, but then get in person as fast as possible, because that's when you're going to find out if you can communicate, if you have good energy, if you have good chemistry. But if you just stay online for a year and a half and be like, I never met him in person, well, that's not dating.
Yeah, and I mean, equivalency is the whole notion of staying in your lane. If you drive down the highway, car can only do 50. You probably shouldn't be in the fast lane of the highway. You're probably just causing more problems than anything when you're in a space where you ain't built to be. You got to be built to be in certain things. And yeah, if you want to be dating somebody that's a gym rat, then obviously, they're probably in the gym a lot. And if you're not in the gym a lot, you probably don't have that compatibility. And it really comes down to compatibility. Now, compatibility can look at that a lot of different ways, but a lot of times people get frustrated in the dating scene, in the dating market, because they're looking for the wrong person, or they're going after the wrong person or the wrong type of people. And they keep having failure after failure because they keep going after the same person that ain't really a good match for them. You got to find
Yeah.
somebody that's a good match for you if you're single. Otherwise, you're just going to be frustrated in the whole process. And yeah, I'm all about getting in person as well. In terms of you get off the screen. We're a screen is two dimensions. We are three-dimensional beings. And the one thing you can't get on a screen is depth. And so the only way you're going to get depth is to get in person and to get some level of beyond the surface. Otherwise, you're dating the avatar. You're not really dating, you're just interacting with an avatar. And so, yeah, getting in a person, but at the same time, the person that you reach out to, or even the profile that you set up, who you think you're looking for, if it's online dating or if it's in person, the person that you are considering approaching, or the person that you have a crush on, and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, these are things that if you want a realistic chance, I'll say, with a person, then you should probably get somebody that that can go along on your same speed on the highway. I mean, somebody that you're crazy as they're crazy. Your sinner and your saint match. All those kinds of things, the same general priorities, all those kinds of things are why it's important to have just a good foundation of being in your own lane.
Yeah, and one of the things that I mean, we'll get into a little bit of the statistics, because I mean, it's out there. All the guys that do the same work that we do are talking about it. It was Match. I think eHarmony put out their statistics on what women find attractive, and ladies online, you only find 20% of the men attractive. That means there's 80% of the men you're just like nexting without ever meeting in person, without ever actually having a real conversation with, because you don't find them attractive, which means you're all going after the same 20%. So those guys have a plethora, nice big word, a plethora of ladies giving them attention. And so if you're struggling in online dating, maybe it's time to check yourself as far as your standards go, because a lot of times, yeah, it's good to have standards, but are your standards actually standards of like what's going to be good for you, or are they defensive standards where you're just afraid to get out there and be vulnerable? So you're using these standards, as it were, to kind of keep people at bay, keep them at arm's length. Because we see a lot of that. A lot of people are like, well, they don't meet my standards. He's not 6 foot tall. He doesn't make six figures, or she's this big, or she doesn't make this kind of money, or whatnot. A lot of times when it comes to relationships, those things, those outward things, really don't matter when you find the right person. But you won't know that until you get in like in face to face with them and feel the energy and get to talk to them. And another point I like to make is that a lot of times when we get in relationships, you want to have some core values the same, but they don't have to be exactly like you. Like a lot of times, if one of you is extroverted, then the other one's introverted. Say like, if I was to find the perfect match for me, I'm most likely going to be the more extroverted one because I'm going to be on stage, I'm going to be talking, I'm going to be doing workshops, things like that. And if I found somebody who is more introverted or prefer to do more behind the scenes stuff, then we have this collaborative energy, this harmony where we can build things together. So sometimes, opposites do attract, but most of the time when we talk about opposites attracts, that's really the masculine feminine energy dynamic because you need to have that masculine feminine energy dynamic for polarity and for sexual attraction. So being in your lane sometimes may look different than what you think it is, but a lot of times it just comes down to your own self awareness and self responsibility.
Hey, if you're watching us live, feel free to comment and we'll see your comments. JBK will make you famous, just like our super producer Nikki Nicole, right there. If you're watching us after this is live, you can still put a comment. We'll see the comment. We'll reply and tell us what you think, whether you agree or disagree, if we crazy, if we ugly, if you whatever it is. We love to hear your feedback kind of stuff. And so I think when you do create, those profiles, again, I think to some degree, it is almost like a resume. When you're interviewing for here, and I think putting your best foot forward. Also, with the understanding of, am I lying in who the person is going to show up? If you 15, 20 years, if they're not going to see up, it's probably not a good match.
Yeah, and to her point, I mean, if you're not putting out your best foot forward online, and bad profiles can be a turnoff. But then again, when you are all online dating and you're just you have this plethora of opportunities and people, and you're just swiping, you're not actually even looking at them two dimensionally. You're barely even giving them a second thought. You take about 3 seconds to look at them and go swipe, swipe, swipe. And that's why I tend to be anti online dating because looking at a picture or a bad profile gives you no reading into who that person really is. That you don't have any idea what their personality is like. You have no idea how you guys would be a match or how you would even collaborate or maybe even how attracted you could be to that person. I think that's where online dating has become a detriment because we're all looking for the same people. Guys all want the supermodels, ladies all want the 6 foot, 6 figure guy, the baller and all this stuff. But in reality, what you have to ask yourself is like this person that I'm dreaming about, or this person that meets all my standards and my thousand, point list of what I want in a person, would that person want you? And that's really what we mean by staying in your lane. If you can honestly say, okay, that person would want me because I match them, great, then that might be your person. But if you say, I want all of these criteria, but I don't fit those same criteria, that's not your person. That's not your lane. You're out of your lane. You went from the slow lane to the express lane trying to find somebody and got run over. And maybe that's why you're struggling to date.
But even to your point, are you the type of person that person would want? If you want a masculine man, then you have to really search yourself and really ask yourself, am I a feminine woman? If you want a feminine woman, you really have to ask yourself, do I exude masculine energy when I show up in the room? If you don't exude masculine energy when you show up in the room, then when you show up in front of her, she doesn't have a sense of masculinity from you, then it's probably not going to be a good fit. And so you need to make sure that the person that you ideally think you want is the person, or you are the person that they are going to actually want to be with when you show up in person. Because otherwise, like I said, a lot of times people will say, well, I keep meeting these beta men, or I keep meeting men like this, or I keep meeting ball busting women and all this other. I keep meeting women that want to boss me around, that are whatever. And it's like, well, maybe it's not all men, or maybe it's not all women. Maybe it's you, and maybe you need to, if you want long-term success or long-term happiness in relationship, somebody that you are truly compatible with, somebody that is in your lane. Maybe polarity is part of that, and maybe you need to recognize that being with somebody that matches your polarity factor, I just made that up, maybe it's important to consider that. Just all of these things. I I had to, I believe, kind of discover myself, discover who and what I am, do my self work, and then almost do the okay, well, what matches up with that in terms of a woman, and then begin to look for that and begin to value those kinds of things. So, a lot of those things come along with staying in your lane. It's not even just somebody that's your height and your body mass index or whatever your income level. A lot of those things are just maybe you're a guy that is really passionate in your career, and maybe somebody that is not passionate in their career is somebody that's a great match for you. Maybe somebody that is willing to support the home front while you go out and support the providing, whatever that is. But considering all that kind of stuff is part of finding out who's a good match for you.
Yeah, and that's why we had Kara on, and we hope she'd jump on, but I know she's really busy, so we'll put her link in the comments so you guys can check out the website. But the reason doing these social events like that are so good because most of us, especially if you've been married, been divorced, you got kids, you got alimony and child support and all these things. Most of us are a little gun shy. We've got some traumas, so we're not as open as we would probably ought to be when we're dating, but we want to date. And so having events like this where you can meet similar people over time, where you can actually spend time with them, and it's not just this kind of pressured first date kind of thing where you're not even being yourself, they're not being themselves, and you're not even sure how to make it work. But doing something where you're relaxed and being yourself, you will naturally more likely attract somebody who's a better match for you because you are relaxed and being yourself. If
Mhm.
you're just online swiping and then trying to go on dates and trying to snatch romance out of thin air, your odds are less than favorable. So doing something like in the loop singles where you go to these events and you meet people naturally, and then you do it over and over again, you get to go to these different events, so you get a bunch of different dates with a bunch of different people, you get to have the time to relax and be yourself and then meet people naturally and organically, and you're more than likely in those scenarios find somebody who's a better match for you because you're not just looking at statistics. Because like Kirk said, most of those statistics won't matter in your relationship. You all, a lot of the boss babes, they want a guy who is ambitious and making all this money and wants to be a boss with her. Maybe that's not who you need. Maybe you need that supportive guy. And on the other front, a guy who maybe is very ambitious and making lots of money. Maybe he needs a woman who wants to stay home more and keep the home fires burning and do those things. So a lot of times it takes that amount of time meeting somebody in person and getting to know them as a person versus just swiping online and looking at statistics. Because even if you find somebody who meets all your criteria online, like we said, well, that person wants you. And then if you think it's the perfect person, then you meet him in person. Because I've had that experience. You meet somebody and you think they're all of these different things, and then you actually meet them in person. You're like, oh, that's not actually what I thought you were going to be, and then it's kind of a letdown. So it's better to meet people in person as much as possible so that you can be more relaxed, so that you actually get a read on who they are, and so you can find out if you're even in the same lane or not.
Yeah, I mean, and why this is important because I mean, we're all about leveling up. We're all about, helping people level up and I hear, I've heard, had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, particularly a lot of guys and a lot of women too, about just the frustration of being single and can't find a good person and all these other kind of things and then after a while that conversation and I got there, and that's the other thing, I got to the point where I was jaded. I mean, when
Mhm.
I was back in the single days and I was doing the online dating, the offline dating, the subway line dating, I was doing the any kind of line there was, I was doing that kind of dating. Just, I was just open to kind of all of it. And I got to the point where I was jaded, man. And I was just like, I was kind of going through the motions. It really became more entertainment than anything. It was like, yeah, I don't feel like sitting at home, today or tonight or this weekend. So I'm just going to set up a bunch of coffee dates and just go out with people. And I'm an extrovert too. So that kind of fed into that. And so, and then it just became a matter of, like really like how serious can I be with somebody, if, or can I be sitting down with a coffee knowing that, okay, I got 2 hours, then I got to get to the other Starbucks across town because I got somebody else meeting me there, but I got jaded because I mean, dude, I mean, it was bad, man.
You had that punch
It was
card full.
Dude, I had so many Starbucks stars, man, and awards. I was drinking free from coffee dates for a long time, dude. I mean, and it was bad, man. Like it was. I'm gonna confess. At one point, I had like one. I think one day I had like 4 or 5 back-to-back coffee dates.
Player.
I mean, I literally spent all day bouncing, and I started doing coffee dates because dinner dates was getting too expensive. But and you know, and so I just got jaded. And the point is, I got jaded. The reason I got jaded is because I was looking for the wrong type of women, and I was caught up in the smoke and mirrors. Pictures can be deceiving online. People can type out anything they want and sound fantastic, and next you know, it's like, man, come on, man. And so, and so we're all about helping folks kind of get out of the ruts, get out of the rat races, and get intentional, get on purpose. And that's why this is important, man, because when you can kind of get to the place where there's depth, where there's value and purpose in what you're doing, then you're going to get more out of that whole thing. And the level of frustration goes through the roof, I think, so much with online dating, because a lot of times guys are looking for the hot chick. If you sit at home all day doing absolutely nothing with your life, watching TV, looking at porn, smoking, drinking, all that kind of stuff, then when you get on the dating site, you just want the chick that looks good, that shows a little bit of cleavage, that whatever. And it's like, dude, but is there any cake underneath that frosting?
Yep.
And 9 to there's a lot of frosting, the cake ain't all that great.
Yeah, and that's why I'm such a proponent of getting out and meeting people in person, because especially when you have gone through a lot of online dating, especially as guys, we get so jaded because I've seen so many guys, talk to so many guys who they just swipe on every picture because there's maybe a 1% chance or less than 1% chance they'll get a like, because the girls are, all, and girls think it's so easy because they assume that guys are getting the same attention they're getting. We may swipe every girl, be on there for an hour and get one response and then get ghosted. And then girls are getting 50 to 100 likes. And that's because the guys are just swiping everything they can. So getting out in person. And if you are jaded, if you have been burned, doing something like the in the loop singles, where you're just having fun, you're just out there relaxed, and it's not so pressure. There's not so much pressure about, oh, I'm meeting somebody and I gotta show out and I gotta prove why this person should pick me. Because in my experience, I spent, I don't know, last few years just kind of in and out of the online dating thing. But the last 2 girls I've even been on dates with, I met in person at events like this. So you just have a better ratio of winning, or you get a better outcome meeting people in person. Plus, you may never know. Like, you could see somebody and be like, oh, they're cute, but then in your mind you may make up a story, which we all do. We see somebody, then we judge them from their appearance and what they're wearing and everything, and then in your own inner dialogue says, oh, well, I think they're cute, but they might not think I'm cute, or maybe we don't have anything in common. But that's a story you're telling yourself. You're in your head. You got to get out of your head and just have conversations with people, because you'll be surprised. I know in my scenarios, a lot of times I thought of myself much lower than the attention I was receiving. And so it took me actually getting out, going, oh, maybe I'm not as bad as I think I am. And I think for a lot of guys, especially if you've been traumatized and gone through divorces and you're just struggling on online dating, it brings your self-esteem down a bit. So just getting out and having fun will help you bring that back up naturally. And then you'll meet people who you may never have even approached, you may never have even thought of. You may think, well, they're too short, they're too tall, or they're too this. And you never gave them the opportunity because you're just looking at surface things, which don't really matter in real relationships. But you talk to them in person, you're like, wow, I really vibe with this person. We really have a good conversation. We really have a lot of chemistry. Conversation and chemistry, I'm sorry, folks, are like the number 1 and number 2 main things you need in a really good long-term relationship.
Something you said just kind of jumped off at me, and I had to think about a minute. Who was that just posted this today? It's somebody we know. I'll tell you who when we get off here, but you might have seen it.
Don't put them on blast. We don't need to sue
again. I won't put them on blast. But this post was pretty much what you just said. The post was 9:35 p.m. Get home from work. 9:47 p.m. Find new dating app. 9:52 p.m. Create dating profile. 10:04 p.m. Upgrade to paid version to add more pics, flirts, and see messages. 10:25 p.m. Browse dating app. 10:45 Go to sleep. 7:01 a.m. Wake up to 53 messages. 7:05 a.m. Cancel membership and close account. What you just said was a whole lot of guys literally just liking, just just messaging, cutting, pasting. I mean, it's so easy to just cut and go into every single one. You look at a picture, oh, she's cute, she's hot, I did it, whatever. You paste it and move on to the next one. And
It's just a
it can
numbers
be
game for
overwhelming
guys.
because nobody is actually being intentional about that thing. So to your point of being intentional, getting in person, all that kind of stuff, man, that's why that kind of stuff is important. Because yeah, when it's all surface, man, it's all avatars, it's all swiping, it's all digital, and man, in this digital age.
Well, it's got us messed up, and like even Kara said, I mean, she's got a fiance now who she was honest about. Said if she was going by her stats and her stuff, she might not have picked because he's more introverted than she is. She's very extroverted. They're about the same height, whatever. He's very like fit, and she's uh, very tall, and in her own words, not as fit as she would like to be. But these are the things that we were talking about that if you looked on just the surface, you'd be like, I don't think so. But if you got to get deeper, and when you get deeper, you actually find out who the matches are, who your people are, who might actually be somebody who you can create a relationship with because it's about creating something. And there's a post that Kurt put up, which I loved. It's about guy was saying, people think that marriage is broken. Marriage isn't broken. People are broken because they've forgotten how to serve. Everybody's like, well, what are you going to do for me? Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get in a relationship, and we've said it, I don't know how many times, we're going to say it again, I don't know how many times, it's all about service. You got to find somebody you want to serve, you would love to serve, and that they want to serve you as well. Because it's 100. It's not 50-50. We did that episode. Go back and watch it. Dating is about coming in as 100% of yourself. They come in as 100% themselves, and you're both there to serve the relationship and serve each other. If your mindset is only, what you going to do for me? Well, all your stuff's in the box to the left. See ya.
And bringing my plane in for a landing somewhat. I think part of it, echoing
Final
off of what you
approach.
just said, you know, yeah, a great thing. One of the things we talk about is love languages and that sort of stuff. And man, it's a great way to serve somebody. And if you're not interested in finding somebody that you can serve, then you're probably setting yourself up for failure. You're probably looking at your dating single life as finding somebody to serve you and to meet your needs and all that kind of stuff, and that's really unfair to somebody. And so to go into it looking for your lane of somebody that kind of is where you are and somebody that you're willing to serve into. I mean, great example, I was dating somebody that lives in a neighborhood that I may probably not ever live in. Put it that way. I mean, was at, you come to my townhouse and go to there, and it's like my townhouse was like the basement there, and it was like, yeah, the thought of, this is, the whole Prince and the Pauper or the whatever, that kind of stuff, is not reliable. So finding yourself in a position where you can meet somebody at your stage, at your state, age, stage of life, all those kinds of things. And then more importantly, somebody that you can match or connect with to be able to serve. No two puzzle pieces are alike. They're all different, but the whole point of the puzzle is to find the pieces that fit into one another. And so when you can do that, when you can create harmony and sing different notes, but at the same time make beautiful music, man, that's the place to be. And so being in your same lane is hugely important to get out of the frustration of being single if you're in that life, and if you're frustrated with that, there are better ways to do it.
Yeah. And for my coming in for a landing quote here, staying in your lane is really about being comfortable. And what tends to happen when you shoot for the stars, you get out of your lane, especially, a lot of times you guys, if you meet somebody to Kirk's point who has a lot more money or is taller or, they're a model or whatever, it might make you feel a little bit insecure because you're not on the same level as they are. So you may get jealous, unconsciously or consciously. You may just not feel comfortable. And in a real, true, intimate relationship, you want to feel comfortable. And that's why we say staying in your lane is a good thing. Because when you find somebody who is in your same lane, whether it's, financial or where you come from, nationality wise, or religion or whatever, those are people you would feel comfortable with. And it's not like, okay, don't shoot for the stars. I'm not saying that, but just know who you are and where you're at. Because if you shoot for the stars, you may end up with somebody for a short term that just doesn't match with you. You just don't feel comfortable. You feel like you're constantly having to strive to keep this person. And we want to be serving each other. We want to feel comfortable with somebody who knows us inside out. We know them inside out, and we have that comfort level, that communication level where we understand each other. And so, staying in your lane is actually a good thing. Now, you can upgrade, but just make sure you're upgrading one lane at a time so that you feel comfortable with whoever you're getting with. Because if you jump a couple lanes, you're out of your league in that way, or you're just too far out of your comfort zone, and it's not really going to work. So make sure you join some group. If you don't like in loop singles, you don't like Kara, which we love her. We think you should join her. We think you should, because I mean, she's in 4 cities in the US. They go, they're not always going to the bowling alley and the dance clubs. They just went to Dublin. They got a trip to Cabo. I mean, they're going all over the place. They're doing some raft trips and Top Golf. I mean, whatever you like to do, they do it. I think they were just doing salsa dancing lessons the other week. So they do everything. If you want to find some people, you want to meet some people, get out in person and meet people. And Loop Seagulls is a great venue to do it. Any last words, sir?
No, sir. I think that's fantastic, man. I mean, get out of where you are, but make sure where you're trying to get into, you fit into. And I think that's kind of my summation of it all. And so, yeah, man. I mean, I'm in my lane, you in your lane, we in our lane together, man.
Yep. And to quote the great poet and American icon, Ice Cube. Get in where you fit in, fool.
And with that, Mad Men
out.